Welcome back. In today's video, we'll be painting up some this Krieg artillery pieces and making some cool scenic trench bases to match. This piece is heavily inspired by another YouTube creator called Supernova Building Guide. Here's his channel right here. He has a whole series about creating custom trench boards that is incredible, and definitely pick some tricks up there from him. So starting off with the building, I have my hot wire cutter table here. I'm using XPS foam from Home Depot. You can get it anywhere. Any kind of extruded XPS foam works. I think there's also a blue color and a green color. This is just the pink one. You want to use this stuff over the compressed board because it's better for building and it's easier to cut, and there's a bunch of reasons. But basically what I'm going to do is just cut squares out the sides of the base that I need for the artillery pieces. Once I have those squares cut out, what I'm going to do is change the angle of my wire off camera, and I'm going to cut the squares in half using like a 45-degree angle. I think it's a little steeper than 45 degrees, but you just want an angled side to the trench, because if you look at pictures like right here, most times they were like dug out walls, so they were on a slope. They weren't straight sides. While I have my wire cutting board out, I'm just gonna make some duck boards. And a trick for this is you get a wire brush and you just press it into the XPS foam and you pull and you make nice graining for the duck boards. And then what I'll do is I'll just cut small pieces of it with my wire cutter here, and I'll just keep running it and ripping down pieces until I get a bunch of boards. Normally I try to keep the board width and thickness around like 2 millimeters. I think that's a good scale for this kind of stuff, but it's nothing's precise here on this model. So here I'm just dry fitting everything. The concept is I want to have one straight wall towards the back of the cannon, and then I want to have a dugout wall in front of the cannon where the cannon will sit. And what I do is I basically glue everything down with wood glue because it's very sticky, but you can use any foam safe adhesive that you want. There's some other good ones out there. There's like a spray glue that works really well too, but I just had the wood glue on hand, so that's what I'm using. Once I have everything secured, I'm just going to use another wire cutter. This one is a handheld, and I'm just going to try to start to shape the foam around the base, making it somewhat circular. It's not going to be perfect, but again, it's fine. So I'm just kind of cutting off excess foam as I work around the model. Now that everything's dried down, I'm going to shape out my cutout version. So wherever I'm putting the front of the cannon, I'm going to use the same wire cutter to scoop out a big chunk of the front wall where the cannon's going to sit. So when I dry fit it, you'll see that the cannon, well, you won't, but you'll kind of see that the cannon kind of fits in there nicely. I'm going to have to scrape down a little bit more to make sure it fits flush, but that'll work in the next step. Before I move on to anything else, I just need to glue down those duck boards that I made. So I'm just going to put a glob of wood glue on the base, and then I'm just going to kind of place my duck boards on top of it. I printed out some scenery pieces from the Grimguard trench kind of terrain, and one of them is this cool wall insert. So I'm just going to use my straight wire cutter piece attachment here and just going to cut out a little square where I can fit it in. This took some scraping down to get it to fit into the hole, but you just you work slowly and just cut off what you need. Next I'm just going to cover the entire base in a mix. It's like a mud texture. It's a mix of a few different things: sand, rocks, actual mud texture, glue, PVA, and some plaster. Whatever you have, whatever paste works for this. I just need to cover everything and give everything a kind of muddy, dirty look to the texture. After everything is dry, I'm just going to glue down the rest of the bits I need and continue to dry fit everything, make sure everything looks good. If I need to pull any mud texture out, I can, but dry fit works here. And also I'm just using super glue to glue everything down. Next, I'm going to move to my primer step. I'm going to prime the entire base in black, and then for the cannons and units, I'm going to use a mix of thunderous blue with black primer to prime everything else that's going to be that color. The mix of paint and primer just skips a step in my head, and it makes it a little easier. Finishing off the cannon, it's going to be pretty simple. I'm just going to go back to my thunderous blue straight up, and then I'm going to mix some wolf gray in it for my next coat. And I'm basically just going to do an easy highlight step here, just hitting the big panels with it and just doing some nice bounce lighting basically. For my base, I'm just going to cover the entire base in a mix of Rhinox hide and German black brown. You could use either or both. I had to stretch my Rhinox hide a little bit, so I used the other Vallejo color, but they both work great. And I'm just coating everything in this a nice even coat. Paint the base, basically what I'm going to do is use a sponge and a dry brush to stipple and sponge different tones of gray between dark to light gray, and also mahogany tone for my I'm also going to use a mahogany tone for my wood. And all I'm doing here is just working the colors in kind of haphazardly, creating texture but also some depth of color. I don't want it all just brown. Next, I'm just going to base coat all the metallics on the model and on the base with a dark gunmetal. It's just gunmetal mixed in with some black metal from Vallejo. I like it dark because I'm going to use a lot of sponging effects after this to bring back the higher metallic colors for like a chipping effect. With everything base coated, I have a mix of Rhinox hide and black brown from Vallejo. I'm just going to stipple this on with a dry brush to all the bottoms and any edges of anything that's on the base that's included, all the metallics, anything that's actually touching ground. I'm going to stipple the bottom of it to look like it's a splash mud effect or dried dirt, just making everything look dirty, but also helps it blend it in a little bit to the base to make it look like it's been there for a while. Next, I'm just going to glue all my pieces down, this including the Kriegers and the cannon piece. I'm going to use the same blend of black brown to blend the feet and the edges of the cannon in. This again blends it into the base a little bit better. It also hides any dried super glue effect that I have, and I can just cover it up with this brown. Also, I will stipple some metallics onto my cannon, make it look a little chipping effect, all those kinds of things. We're in a pretty good shape here now. It looks nice and weathered and dirty. I'm just going to add some rust effects to things around the model. Anything that's metallic that's touching the ground, I'm going to put a rust effect on, also keeping this kind of varied and random. Final little piece I wanted to add on my cannon was I wanted a little explosion effect to go in here. So this is from Deadly Prince, and it's actually the basilisk one that I just scaled down. But anyway, I glued it on and based it with white primer, and then I came in back with white ink to make sure I had a completely white object. What I'll do now is I'll work through my fluorescence. So it's an orange yellow mix to start off with. I base coat the entire effect, then I work my fluorescent red in, and then I'll finish off with a regular red, and then I move on to my acrylics, which is a bloody red, and then I move to the smoke effect. So that will be burnt red into black, and then I do a little bit of gray on the outside to give like a smoke effect on the edge. Pretty simple, done it a few times now. It's pretty foolproof. It's very vibrant, especially next to the rest of the model. It really does feel very bright when you're looking at it. And there you have it. Pretty simple, but a cool concept here. You do need some materials to do it, but this would fit in great with any Krieg army. It gives your artillery kind of a centerpiece vibe because they're, in the trenches shooting stuff. You could do canopies over this. I just spend so much time painting like the models and everything that like if I put a canopy over it, I don't know, I'll hide all the work I did. So it's definitely an option. I thought about doing it. I have to do a bunch more of these coming up for an order. I might do some canopies, but we'll see. But anyway, if you like the video, please like, subscribe, share. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks.